The space station floated in the dark emptiness between two star systems. It was called Haven Station, a place where different alien races came to talk about peace and trade. The station was old but beautiful, with tall windows that showed the stars outside. Tonight, it held one of the most important meetings in the galaxy. Queen Yuna walked through the long hallway with her head held high. She was the ruler of the Valari Empire, a kingdom that spread across 40 planets. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were silver like two small moons. She wore a white dress that touched the floor, and a small crown sat on her dark hair. She was young for a queen, only 30 years old, but she had already ruled for 10 years. Behind her walked 12 guards. They were the royal shield, the best soldiers in the Valari Empire. Each one wore golden armor and carried a long energy spear. They had sworn to protect the queen with their lives. At least, that is what they had promised. There was one more soldier walking at the back of the group. He was different from the others. He was human. Private Taiho was 25 years old. He had brown skin, black hair cut very short, and tired eyes that had seen too much fighting. He was part of an exchange program between humans and the Valari. The humans were new to the galaxy, having only discovered space travel 50 years ago. They were still learning about the other races, and sending soldiers to work with alien armies was one way to build trust. Taiho did not wear golden armor like the Valari guards. He wore simple gray military clothes and carried a rifle on his back. The Valari guards did not like him. They thought humans were weak and primitive. They called him the pet when they thought he could not hear them. But Taiho did not care about their words. He was here to do his job, nothing more. The queen reached her room and stopped at the door. She turned to look at her guards. Her silver eyes moved over each face until they stopped on Taiho. "You are the human," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. Taiho stood straight and gave a small bow. "Yes, Your Majesty." "Private Taiho, Earth Defense Force." The queen studied him for a moment. "I have heard that humans need to sleep every night. Is this true?" "Yes, Your Majesty. About 6 to 8 hours." Some of the Valari guards laughed quietly. The Valari only needed to sleep once every 3 days. They thought this human weakness was funny, but the queen did not laugh. "Then you should rest, Private. Tomorrow will be a long day of meetings." "Thank you, Your Majesty, but I will stay at my post," Taiho said. "Those are my orders." The queen looked at him for another moment, then nodded and went into her room. The door closed behind her. The night cycle began. The lights in the hallway became dim, and the station became quiet. 4 guards stood outside the queen's door while the others went to rest. Taiho stood at the far end of the hallway, watching everything. Hours passed slowly. Taiho stood without moving, his eyes always open. His legs hurt and his back ached, but he did not sit down. This was his duty. Around midnight, something strange happened. One of the guards outside the queen's door looked at his communicator. He read something on the screen, then whispered to the other guards. They all looked at the message, and then they looked at Taiho. The guard walked over to Taiho. His name was Captain Dohwan, and he was the leader of the Royal Shield. He was tall, with the same blue skin and silver eyes as the queen, but his face was hard and cold. "Human," Dohwan said, "we have received new orders. There is a security problem on the lower levels. We must go check it." Taiho frowned. "All of you? Who will guard the queen?" Dohwan smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "You will. Consider it an honor." "Sir, with respect, this does not seem right. The queen should have at least 4 guards at all times." Dohwan stepped closer. He was much taller than Taiho, and he used his height to try to scare the human. "Are you questioning my orders, pet?" Taiho did not step back. "I am questioning the safety of the queen, sir. For a moment, anger flashed in Do-Wan's silver eyes. Then he laughed. "Do not worry. We will return soon. Just stay at your post and try not to fall asleep." The 4 guards walked away. Their footsteps echoed in the empty hallway until they disappeared around the corner. Then there was only silence. Taiho stood alone in the dim hallway. Something felt very wrong. He had been a soldier for 7 years, and he had learned to trust his feelings. Right now, his feelings were screaming that danger was coming. He pulled out his communicator and tried to contact his commanding officer on Earth Station. The signal was blocked. He tried the station's security channel. Also blocked. Someone was jamming all communications. Taiho's heart began to beat faster, but he kept his face calm. He walked to the Queen's door and stood in front of it. He took his rifle off his back and held it ready. The hallway was long and straight, with only one way in and one way out. If anyone wanted to reach the Queen, they would have to go through him. Minutes passed. Taiho listened to every sound. He heard the soft hum of the station's engines. He heard air moving through the vents. And then he heard something else. Footsteps. Many footsteps. Coming closer, Taiho raised his rifle and pointed it at the far end of the hallway. He saw shadows moving in the darkness. Then he saw them step into the dim light. There were 6 of them. They wore black clothes and black masks that covered their faces. They carried weapons that Taiho did not recognize. They moved without making sound, like ghost assassins. Taiho did not run. He did not call for help that would not come. He simply stood in front of the Queen's door and aimed his rifle at the first assassin. "Stop," he said. His voice was steady. "You will not pass." The assassin stopped. The one in front tilted his head, looking at Taiho with curiosity. "A human?" the assassin said. His voice was like metal scraping against stone. The guards said the Queen would be alone. "The guards lied," Taiho said. "I am here." The assassin laughed. "One human against 6 trained killers? You cannot win. Step aside, and we will let you live." Taiho did not move. "I cannot do that. Why not? The Queen is not your ruler. This is not your fight." Taiho thought about the question. Why was he doing this? The Valari did not like humans. The guards had treated him badly. The Queen had barely spoken to him. Why should he risk his life for her? But then he remembered something his father had told him when he was young. His father had been a soldier too, and he had said, "A soldier's duty is not about who deserves protection. It is about keeping your word. When you promise to protect someone, you protect them. That is what makes us human." Taiho looked at the assassins. "This is my fight," he said. "Because I said it was." The assassins raised their weapons, and then the first shot was fired. The alarm stopped after 10 minutes. Then the station became quiet again. Too quiet. Taiho opened his eyes. He was still sitting against the Queen's door. His body felt cold, and he could not feel his left arm at all. Blood had pooled around him on the floor. He knew he should be dead by now. He did not understand why he was still alive. Maybe he was too stubborn to die. His mother had always said he was the most stubborn boy in the village. He tried to move and gasped in pain. Something was broken inside him. Probably several things. He looked down at his chest and saw the long cut from the assassin leader's sword. It was deep. He needed medical help soon, or he would bleed to death. But he could not leave his post. The assassin leader had said he would come back. If Taiho left to find help, the Queen would be alone. He could not let that happen, so he stayed. He pulled off his belt and tied it around his chest, trying to slow the bleeding. It was not a good solution, but it was better than nothing. Then he picked up his rifle again and pointed it at the hallway. The bodies of the assassins lay where they had fallen. 5 of them. Taiho had killed 5 trained killers. When he thought about it, he could not believe it was real. He was just a private, a low-ranking soldier. He had never done anything special in his life. He was not a hero, but he was covered in blood, fighting to protect a queen he barely knew. Strange how life worked sometimes. A sound came from behind him. The queen's voice, coming through the door. "Soldier? Are you alive?" Taiho coughed. "Yes, Your Majesty. Still here. You are hurt. I can see you on my security screen. You need help. I will be fine, Your Majesty." "You are lying. I can see the blood." Taiho almost smiled. "Maybe a little, Your Majesty." There was a pause. Then the queen spoke again. "Why did you stay?" "All the other guards left." "You could have left too. No one would have blamed you." Taiho thought about the question. His mind was foggy from blood loss, and it was hard to think clearly. "When I joined the army," he said slowly, "I made a promise. I promised to protect those who needed protection. It does not matter if they are human or Valari or anything else. A promise is a promise. But you could die." "Yes. Does that not scare you?" Taiho was quiet for a moment. "Yes, it scares me. I do not want to die. But being scared is not a reason to break my promise. Humans learned long ago that some things are more important than fear." The queen was silent. Taiho could hear her breathing through the door. "I have never met anyone like you," she said finally. "The Valari guards swore to protect me. They wore golden armor and carried expensive weapons. They said they would die for me. But when the time came, they ran away. They sold me for money. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. But you, a human soldier I never even looked at before tonight, you stayed. You fought. You bled. Why? What do humans have that the Valari do not?" Taiho thought about this. "I do not know, Your Majesty. Maybe nothing special. Maybe we are just too stupid to know when to give up." The queen laughed. It was a soft laugh, sad and tired. "That is not stupidity. That is something else. Something I do not have a word for." Time passed. Taiho felt himself getting weaker. His vision kept going dark and then coming back. He was dying. He knew it. But he kept his eyes on the hallway and his finger on the trigger. The queen talked to him through the door. She told him about her life, about growing up as a princess, about becoming queen when her mother died. She told him about the problems in her empire, about the enemies who wanted to destroy her. She told him things she had never told anyone else. Taiho listened. He did not say much because talking was hard. But he listened, and sometimes he made small sounds to show he was still awake. "Are you still there?" The queen asked. "Yes, Your Majesty." "Good. Keep talking to me. It helps me know you are alive." So Taiho talked. He told her about Earth, about the small village where he grew up. He told her about his parents, who were farmers. He told her about his little sister, who had always dreamed of seeing the stars. He told her why he had joined the army, to protect his family, to give them a better life. "Do you miss them?" The queen asked. "Every day. Will you see them again?" Taiho was quiet. "I do not know, Your Majesty." "I hope so." Another sound came from the hallway. Footsteps. Taiho raised his rifle, his heart beating fast. A figure appeared at the end of the hallway. It was Captain Dohan, the leader of the Royal Shield. He was walking slowly, his hands empty, a smile on his face. "Well, well," Dohan said. "The pet is still alive. I am surprised." Taiho pointed his rifle at him. "Stay back." Dohan laughed. "What are you going to do? Shoot me? I am the captain of the Royal Shield. If you kill me, you will be executed. If you come closer, I will shoot you." Dohan stopped walking. His smile faded. "You should have run away, human. You should have let the assassins do their job. Now you have made everything complicated. You betrayed your queen, Taiho said. His voice was cold. You sold her to assassins. Why? Dowan shrugged. Money, power, the usual reasons. The Valari Empire is weak. It is going to fall soon. I wanted to be on the winning side. You are a coward. Anger flashed in Dowan's silver eyes. I am not a coward. I am practical. Unlike you, pet. What did you get for your loyalty? Pain, blood, death. Was it worth it? Taiho looked at Dowan. He thought about the question. His body was broken. He was probably going to die. He had nothing to show for his sacrifice except wounds. But then he thought about the queen, safe behind the door. He thought about his promise. He thought about what his father had told him. Yes, Taiho said. It was worth it. Dowan shook his head. Humans are strange creatures. You do not understand how the galaxy works. The strong survive, and the weak die. That is the only rule. You are wrong, Taiho said. The strong survive for a while. But the ones who are loyal, the ones who keep their promises, they are remembered forever. Dowan laughed. Who will remember you, pet? You are nobody. You are just a human soldier. When you die, no one will even know your name. I will know his name. The queen's voice came through the door. It was sharp and angry. I will remember him. I will make sure the entire galaxy remembers him. Dowan's smile disappeared. Your Majesty, you do not understand. I did this for the good of the Empire. The new rulers will be better for our people. You did this for yourself, the Queen said. And when I get out of this room, I will make sure you pay for it. Dowan's face became hard. You are not going to get out of that room. The assassin leader is coming back with more soldiers. This time, there will be no escape. Taiho raised his rifle. Then I will kill them too. Dowan laughed. Look at you. You can barely stand. You will be dead in an hour. Maybe, but I will take as many of them with me as I can. Dowan stared at Taiho for a long moment. Then he shook his head. Fine. Stay here and die with your queen. I will not waste any more time on you. He turned and walked away. His footsteps echoed in the hallway until they were gone. Taiho let out a breath. His arms were shaking. The rifle felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. But he kept holding it. He kept watching the hallway. Soldier, the queen said through the door. Taiho, you should leave. Find help. Save yourself. I cannot do that, Your Majesty. I order you to leave. Taiho smiled, even though it hurt. With respect, Your Majesty, you are not my queen. You cannot order me to do anything. There was a long silence. Then the queen spoke again, and her voice was different, softer, almost pleading. Please, I do not want you to die for me. I do not want to die either, Taiho said. But sometimes we do not get to choose. Sometimes we just have to stand where we are and do what is right. He settled back against the door and watched the hallway. The night was far from over. More enemies would come. He knew he could not beat them all, but he would try, because that was what humans did. Light, soft, warm light. Taiho opened his eyes slowly. Everything was blurry at first. Shapes and colors mixed together like a painting in the rain. Then, slowly, the world came into focus. He was in a bed. A very nice bed, much nicer than anything he had ever slept in. The sheets were soft and white. The room was large and full of sunlight from tall windows. The walls were painted gold and blue. He tried to move and felt pain. But it was a dull pain, not the sharp agony he remembered. He looked down at his body. Bandages covered his arms, his chest, his legs. Tubes connected him to machines that made soft beeping sounds. You are awake. Taiho turned his head. Queen Yuna was sitting in a chair beside his bed. She looked different than he remembered. Her blue skin was clean and healthy. Her silver eyes were bright. She wore simple white clothes instead of her royal dress, but she also looked tired, like she had not slept in a long time. "Your Majesty," Taiho tried to say. His voice was weak and rough. "Do not try to talk yet." The queen stood up and poured water from a glass. She held it to his lips and helped him drink. "You have been asleep for 3 weeks. 3 weeks?" Taiho's eyes widened in surprise. "The doctors said you should be dead," the queen continued. She sat back down and looked at him with an expression he could not read. "Your wounds were too severe. You lost too much blood. Your heart stopped twice during surgery." She paused. Her hands were shaking slightly. "But you did not die. The doctors kept working, and you kept fighting. Even unconscious, you refused to give up. They said they had never seen anything like it." Taiho closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered pieces of the night. The fighting, the pain, the queen's voice through the door. It all felt like a dream now. "The others," he whispered. "The guards. Captain Doan." The queen's face became hard. Captain Doan was caught trying to escape the station. He is in prison now. He will be executed for treason. The other guards who betrayed me have also been arrested. They will spend the rest of their lives in the darkest prison in the Empire. Taiho nodded slowly. "Good. The assassin leader is dead. Your human soldiers killed him during the rescue. His organization has been destroyed. You saved more than just my life that night. You saved my entire empire." Taiho shook his head. "It was a small movement, but the queen saw it. You disagree?" "I did not save anything, Your Majesty. I just stood in front of a door." The queen laughed. It was a warm sound, different from the sad laugh he had heard through the door. "Just stood in front of a door," she repeated. "You killed 13 trained assassins. You held your position for 6 hours with wounds that should have killed you in minutes. You did all of this for a queen who was not yours, a people who had treated you badly, a mission that was not your responsibility." She leaned forward and took his hand. Her blue fingers wrapped around his brown ones. "That is not just standing in front of a door. That is something else. Something special." Taiho did not know what to say. He was not used to people saying nice things about him. In the military, he was just another soldier. Nobody special. Nobody important. "Your Majesty, I was just doing my job." "Then your job is more than most people can handle." The queen stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the sky. "I have been queen for 10 years. In that time, I have met thousands of soldiers. Valari soldiers, soldiers from other races, soldiers who swore to protect me with their lives. But when the test came, they all failed. All except one." She turned to look at him. "One human soldier. One nobody private from a small planet. You were the only one who kept your promise." Taiho felt his cheeks grow warm. He was not used to this kind of attention. "After you were brought to the medical bay, news spread quickly," the queen continued. "People heard about what you did. First the soldiers on the station, then the soldiers in my fleet. Then the news reached the planets. Now everyone in the galaxy knows the story of the human who saved the Valari queen." She smiled. "You are famous, Private Taiho. Songs are being written about you. Statues are being planned. Children are playing pretend games where they are you, fighting assassins to protect the queen." Taiho's eyes widened. "That is a lot. It is. And it is only the beginning." The queen walked back to his bed and sat down. Her expression became serious. "I have a question for you, Private Taiho, and I want you to think carefully before you answer." "Yes, Your Majesty?" "I am going to rebuild my royal guard. I am going to create a new force made up of soldiers who have proven their loyalty. Soldiers from different races who share the values you showed that night. Courage, honor, the willingness to sacrifice for others. She paused. I want you to lead them. Taiho stared at her. He was sure he had heard wrong. Me, lead your guard? Yes, but I am just a private. I have no experience leading anyone. I am not even Valari. That is exactly why I want you. The queen leaned closer. My old guard was made up of Valari nobles. They had money and power and fancy titles, but they had no honor. You have nothing except your rifle and your word. And your word proved to be worth more than all the gold in my empire. Taiho was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his life before that night. He had been a nobody, just another human soldier trying to get through each day. He had no dreams, no ambitions. He just wanted to finish his service and go home to his family. But that night had changed everything. He had discovered something about himself that he did not know existed. A strength that came not from his muscles, but from somewhere deeper. Your Majesty, he said finally, I am honored by your offer. But I need to think about it. I need to talk to my family. The queen nodded. Of course. Take all the time you need. I will wait. She stood up and walked to the door. Before she left, she turned back. Private Taiho, I want to tell you something. Something I have never said to anyone. Yes, Your Majesty? During those 6 hours, while you were fighting and bleeding outside my door, I was watching on the security screen. I saw everything you did. And somewhere during that night, I felt something I had never felt before. What was that, Your Majesty? The queen smiled. It was a small, shy smile that made her look young. Hope, she said. For the first time in my life, I felt hope. Not because help was coming. Not because I might survive. But because I saw that there were still people in the galaxy who kept their promises. People who would stand against the darkness, even when they had no chance of winning. She opened the door. You gave me hope, Private Taiho, and that is worth more than anything else in the universe. She left. The door closed softly behind her. Taiho lay in his bed, looking at the ceiling. His body hurt. His mind was full of questions. His future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, he felt something too. Pride. Not the loud, boastful kind, but a quiet pride that came from knowing he had done the right thing. He had kept his promise. He had stood his ground. He had been human in the best possible way. Outside the window, the stars were shining. Billions of lights in the endless darkness of space. Each one a sun. Each one a world. Each one full of stories waiting to be told. And now, Taiho was part of those stories. The human who stood alone. The soldier who kept his word. The nobody who became somebody. He closed his eyes and smiled. Maybe he would take the queen's offer. Maybe he would build something new. Maybe he would show the galaxy what humans were really made of. But first, he would rest. He had earned it. The first shot came from the assassin's weapon. It was a beam of red light that burned through the air. Taiho dropped to the ground just in time. The beam passed over his head and hit the wall behind him, leaving a black burn mark. Taiho rolled to the side and fired his rifle. The bullet hit the first assassin in the shoulder. The assassin fell back with a cry of pain. The other 5 spread out, taking cover behind pillars and corners. The hallway became a storm of light and sound. Red beams flew at Taiho from different directions. He moved behind a pillar, pressed his back against it, and tried to breathe slowly. His heart was pounding so hard, he could feel it in his throat. He counted the enemies in his head. 6 total. 1 was wounded. That left 5 who could still fight. They had better weapons than him. They were trained killers. And he was alone. But Taiho had something they did not have. He was human. Humans were not the strongest in the galaxy. They were not the fastest. They did not have special powers or natural weapons. But humans had something else. They had endurance. They could keep going when other races would stop. They could push through pain and fear and exhaustion. They were stubborn in a way that confused other species. Taiho leaned around the pillar and fired 3 quick shots. One bullet hit an assassin in the leg. The assassin screamed and fell. 2 down, 4 to go. He's just one human. The leader shouted. Kill him. The 4 remaining assassins rushed forward together. Taiho knew he could not stop them all. So he did something they did not expect. He ran toward them. The assassins were surprised. They had expected him to hide or run away. Instead, this small human was charging straight at them. For a moment, they did not know what to do. That moment was all Taiho needed. He crashed into the first assassin and grabbed the alien's weapon. They struggled together, spinning in the hallway. Taiho was shorter and lighter, but he was fast. He twisted the weapon and fired it into the assassin's stomach. The alien fell. Another assassin swung at Taiho with a knife. The blade cut across Taiho's arm. Pain exploded through his body, but he did not stop. He grabbed the assassin's wrist and broke it with a sharp twist. The assassin dropped the knife, and Taiho picked it up and pushed it into the alien's chest. 4 down. 2 left. Blood was running down Taiho's arm. His uniform was torn and burned in several places. Every breath hurt. But he was still standing. The 2 remaining assassins looked at each other. They had never seen anything like this. They were trained to kill quickly and quietly. They were not prepared for an enemy who refused to die. What are you? One of them asked. His voice was shaking. Taiho wiped blood from his face. I am a human, and you are not getting through that door. Inside her room, Queen Yuna heard the sounds of fighting. At first, she thought it was a drill or a mistake. But then she heard screams and gunshots, and she knew something was very wrong. She ran to her security screen and turned it on. The screen showed the hallway outside her room. What she saw made her freeze. Bodies lay on the floor. Black-clothed assassins were fighting a single figure in gray. The human soldier. The one called Taiho. Yuna watched him move. He was wounded in many places. Blood covered his clothes. But he kept fighting. Every time an assassin attacked, he found a way to fight back. He was like a storm that would not stop. The queen had seen many soldiers in her life. The Valari were proud of their warriors. But she had never seen anyone fight like this human. He was not fighting because he was strong. He was fighting because he refused to give up. One of the 2 remaining assassins pulled out a small bomb. He threw it at Taiho. The human saw it coming and kicked it back. The bomb exploded in the air between them. The force threw Taiho against the wall. He hit the ground hard and did not move. The assassin laughed. Finally, the stupid human is dead. But then Taiho moved. Slowly, painfully, he pushed himself up from the ground. His left arm hung at a strange angle. His face was covered in burns. But his eyes were still open, and his rifle was still in his right hand. No, Taiho said. His voice was weak but clear. Not dead yet. He raised his rifle and fired. The bullet went through the assassin's head. The alien fell without a sound. One left. The last assassin was the leader. He was bigger than the others, and he carried a long sword that glowed with blue light. He looked at Taiho with something that might have been respect. You have killed 5 of my soldiers, the leader said. You are wounded and tired. You cannot win against me. Taiho coughed, and blood came out of his mouth. Maybe not, but I can slow you down. Why? Why do you fight so hard for a queen who is not yours? Taiho thought about the question. His body was screaming for him to stop, to rest, to give up. but something inside him refused. "Because someone has to," he said. "Because if I don't, who will?" The assassin leader shook his head. "Humans are strange creatures. You know you will die, but you still fight. This is not logical." "No," Taiho agreed. "It's not logical. It's human." The leader raised his sword and attacked. Inside her room, Queen Yuna watched the screen with tears in her silver eyes. She had never cried before. Queens were not supposed to cry. But watching this human soldier, this stranger from a distant planet, fighting and bleeding and dying to protect her, she could not stop the tears. She tried to open her door to help him, but the door was locked from outside. The security system had activated when the attack began. She was trapped inside, forced to watch. "Please," she whispered at the screen. "Please, don't die." The assassin leader was fast. His sword cut through the air like lightning. Taiho dodged the first strike, then the second. But the third strike caught him across the chest. He fell to his knees. The leader stood over him, sword raised for the final blow. "Any last words, human?" Taiho looked up at him. Blood was running down his face, his chest, his arms. He could barely see through the pain, but he managed to smile. "Just one," he said. He pulled a small grenade from his belt and pressed the button. The explosion was not big, but it was enough. The leader was thrown backward, his sword flying from his hand. Taiho was thrown the other way, his body hitting the queen's door with a heavy thud. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then, slowly, Taiho began to crawl. He crawled across the floor, leaving a trail of blood behind him. He crawled until he reached the queen's door. Then he turned around and sat with his back against it. The assassin leader was getting up. He was wounded, but he was still alive. He picked up his sword and started walking toward Taiho. Taiho raised his rifle. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold it. But he held it anyway. "You will have to kill me," he said. The leader stopped. He looked at Taiho, this broken human sitting in a pool of his own blood, still pointing a weapon, still refusing to give up. "You should be dead," the leader said. "I know," Taiho replied. "But I'm not." The leader raised his sword. And then, from somewhere far away, there was a sound. Alarms. Loud alarms that echoed through the entire station. The leader looked toward the sound, then back at Taiho. His time was running out. If he stayed to finish this fight, he would be caught. "This is not over," the leader said. "I will come back." "I'll be here," Taiho said. The leader turned and ran. He disappeared into the darkness at the end of the hallway. Taiho watched him go, his rifle still raised, just in case. When he was sure the leader was gone, Taiho let his rifle fall. His arms had no more strength. His vision was getting dark around the edges. He could feel his life slipping away like water through his fingers, but the queen was safe. The door behind his back was still closed. No one had gotten through. Taiho closed his eyes and let himself rest. He had done his duty. Inside her room, Queen Yuna pressed her hands against the door and wept. The station's lights changed from dim blue to soft yellow. It was the dawn cycle. 6 hours had passed since the first attack. Taiho was still sitting against the queen's door. He had not moved all night. His uniform was now more red than gray, soaked with his own blood. His skin was pale and cold. His breathing was slow and shallow, but he was still alive. And his rifle was still pointed at the hallway. 2 more groups of assassins had come during the night. The first group had 3 people. Taiho had killed 2 of them. The third one had run away. The second group had 5 people. They had been more careful, using shields and cover. Taiho had killed 3 of them before they retreated. 8 more kills. 30 in total. Each fight had cost him. New cuts on his arms and legs. A bullet wound in his side. Burns on his face from energy weapons. He had lost so much blood that his vision was gray at the edges, and his hands were shaking constantly. But he was still here. The door behind him was still closed. The Queen was still safe. Taiho? The Queen's voice came through the door. She had been talking to him all night, keeping him awake. Are you still there? Yes, Your Majesty. His voice was barely a whisper now. The sun is rising. Well, the fake sun. The station's lights changed. I see it. Help should come soon. I sent an emergency signal before the attack. My fleet should be here any moment. Taiho nodded, but the Queen could not see him. That is good, Your Majesty. Just hold on a little longer. Please, I will try. Footsteps again. Taiho raised his rifle, his arms screaming in pain. He looked down the hallway and saw the assassin leader returning. Behind him were at least 20 soldiers. They wore heavy armor and carried big weapons. This was the end. Taiho knew it. He could not fight 20 soldiers. He could barely hold his rifle, but he did not run. He did not hide. He just sat there, his back against the door, and pointed his weapon at the enemy. The assassin leader stopped when he saw Taiho. His eyes widened with surprise. You are still alive? The leader's voice was full of disbelief. Impossible. I left you dying 6 hours ago. I am very stubborn, Taiho said. The leader looked at the new bodies in the hallway. His expression changed from surprise to something like awe. You killed more of my soldiers, while wounded like that. How? Taiho shrugged. The movement sent pain through his entire body. I had nothing else to do. The leader was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed. It was not a mean laugh. It was the laugh of someone who could not believe what he was seeing. Human, the leader said. I have fought many enemies in my life. Warriors from 100 different planets. But I have never met anyone like you. You have more courage than anyone I have ever seen. I do not feel very brave, Taiho said honestly. I feel tired. Brave people usually do. The leader stepped forward. But this ends now. My soldiers will kill you, and then we will kill the Queen. It is nothing personal. Just business. Taiho looked at the 20 soldiers. He looked at his rifle. He had maybe 5 bullets left. Not enough, but he raised the rifle anyway. Come and try, he said. The leader gave a signal, and the soldiers started moving forward. They walked slowly, carefully, watching Taiho like he was a dangerous animal. After what he had done to their friends, they were not taking any chances. Taiho waited. His finger was on the trigger. His heart was beating fast despite his weakness. This was it. His last fight. He would make it count. The first soldier came within range. Taiho aimed and fired. The bullet went through the soldier's helmet. The soldier fell. The other soldiers opened fire. Beams of light flew toward Taiho. He tried to dodge, but his body would not move fast enough. A beam hit his shoulder. Another hit his leg. He fell sideways, his rifle sliding out of his hands. Taiho! The Queen screamed from behind the door. Taiho tried to get up. He could not. His body had finally reached its limit. He lay on the floor, looking up at the ceiling, waiting for death. The assassin leader walked over and stood above him. The leader's sword was in his hand. You fought well, human, the leader said. I will remember you. He raised his sword, and then everything changed. A sound filled the station. A deep, powerful sound like thunder. The walls shook. The floor vibrated. The lights flickered. The assassin leader looked up. His face went pale. Impossible, he whispered through the windows at the end of the hallway. Taiho could see something. Ships. Many ships. They were coming out of hyperspace, appearing one after another in the darkness of space. Big ships with golden hulls and weapons that glowed with power. The Valari fleet had arrived, but there was something else. Smaller ships mixed in with the Valari fleet. Ships that Taiho recognized. Gray ships with blue markings. Human ships thought the Queen's emergency signal had reached not just her own fleet, but the human fleet too. The assassin leader turned to his soldiers. "We have to go, now." They started to run, but it was too late. The station's doors opened and soldiers poured in. Valari soldiers in golden armor. Human soldiers in gray and blue. They flooded the hallway, their weapons ready. The assassins tried to fight. They did not last long. In minutes, they were all dead or captured. The assassin leader was shot by a human soldier before he could escape. Taiho lay on the floor, watching it all happen. His vision was getting darker. He could hear voices around him, but they seemed far away. "We need a medic. Now, is that the human? The one who held the hallway? Look at all these bodies. He killed them all? Get him to the medical bay. Hurry!" Hands lifted Taiho from the ground. He felt himself being carried. He saw faces looking down at him, Valari and human faces mixed together. They all looked worried that the Queen's door finally opened. Yuna ran out, her silver eyes searching until they found Taiho. She pushed through the soldiers and grabbed his hand. "You did it," she said. Tears were running down her blue cheeks. "You saved me." Taiho tried to speak. His lips moved, but no sound came out. He was too weak. "Don't try to talk," the Queen said. "Just rest. You are going to be okay. I will make sure of it." Taiho was carried away on a stretcher. As they moved through the station, he saw soldiers stopping to look at him. Valari and human soldiers alike. They stood at attention as he passed, a sign of respect. "Who is that?" someone asked. "Private Taiho," another voice answered. He held the Queen's door alone for 6 hours. Killed 13 assassins by himself. Impossible. "I know. But he did it." Taiho closed his eyes. The voices faded into silence. The darkness wrapped around him like a blanket, but just before he lost consciousness, he felt something. A warm hand holding his. The Queen's hand. She had not let go. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Please, stay with me." Taiho wanted to answer. He wanted to tell her that he would try, but the darkness was too strong. It pulled him down, down, down into nothing. The last thing he heard was the Queen's voice, far away like a star in the night. "You are not going to die. I will not let you. Do you hear me, human? I will not let you." And then everything went black.